Theoretically, there should be only one type of hypothesis, that is the research hypothesis, the basis of your investigation. However, because of the conventions in scientific inquiries and because of the wording used in the construction of a hypothesis, hypotheses can be classified into several types. In today's video, I'll take you through the broad two categories of hypothesis and then discuss the other types of hypothesis with an example that will be easy for you to understand and categorize your hypothesis into. Let's get started. So broadly, there are two categories of hypothesis. One is called the research hypothesis and the other is called the alternate hypothesis. The formulation of an alternate hypothesis is a convention in scientific circles. Its main function is to explicitly specify the relationship that will be considered as true in case the research hypothesis proves to be wrong. In a way, an alternative hypothesis is the opposite of the research hypothesis. Conventionally, a null hypothesis or hypothesis of no difference is formulated as an alternate hypothesis. So let's take an example and see what comprises of an alternate hypothesis. So suppose you want to test the effect that different combinations of maternal and child health services, that is MCH, and nutritional supplements, that is NS, have on the infant mortality rate. Now to test this, a 2x2 factorial experimental design is adopted. There are several ways of formulating a hypothesis. For example, we can say there will be no difference in the level of infant mortality among the different treatment modalities. Or we can say the MCH and NS treatment groups will register a greater decline in infant mortality than the only MCH treatment group, the only NS treatment group, or the control group. We can also say that infant mortality in the MCH treatment group will reach a level of, let's say, 30 by 1000 over 4 or 5 years. Or we can say that decline in the infant mortality rate will be 3 times greater in the MCH treatment group than in the NS group only over 5 years. Now let's take another example for those of you who find this example to be a bit confusing. Suppose you want to study the smoking patterns in a community in relation to gender differentials. Here is how you can construct the hypothesis. The first one could be there is no significant difference in the proportion of male and female smokers in the study population. Or you can say a greater proportion of females than males are smokers in the study population. Or you can say a total of 60% of females and 30% of males in the study population are smokers. Or there are twice as many female smokers as male smokers in the study population. Now let's see how we can classify these hypotheses under different categories. And we'll take both the case studies and the hypothesis that we have generated to categorize them. The first category is the null hypothesis. Now, as you could see in both the case studies that we studied, the way the first hypothesis has been formulated indicates that there is no difference either in the extent of the impact of different treatment modalities on the infant mortality rate or in the proportion of male and female smokers. When you construct a hypothesis stipulating that there is no difference between two situations or groups or outcomes or the prevalence of a condition or phenomena, this is called a null hypothesis, which is usually written as H0, as you see on your screens. The second type of hypothesis is called the hypothesis of difference. This is the second hypothesis in each example, implying that there is a difference either in the extent of the impact of different treatment modalities on infant mortality or in the proportion of male and female smokers among the population, though the extent of the difference is not specified. A hypothesis in which a researcher stipulates that there will be a difference but does not specify its magnitude is called a hypothesis of difference. The third category is the hypothesis of point prevalence. A researcher may have enough knowledge about the smoking behavior of the community or the treatment program and its likely outcomes to speculate almost the exact prevalence of the situation or the outcome of a treatment program in quantitative units. Let's see how. Now examine the third hypothesis in both sets of examples. The level of infant mortality is 30 by 1000 and the proportion of female and male smokers is specified as 60 and 30% respectively. This type of hypothesis, where a quantitative unit is specified, is known as hypothesis of point prevalence. Finally, the fourth type of hypothesis is called the hypothesis of association. Now, the fourth hypothesis in both sets of examples speculates a relationship, either between the impact of different combinations of MCH and NS programs on the dependent variable of infant mortality, or the relationship between the prevalence of a phenomena such as smoking among different populations, that is male and female. Now, this type of hypothesis stipulates the extent of relationship in terms of the effect of different treatment groups on the dependent variable. For example, 3 times greater in the MCH treatment group than in the NS group, only over 5 years. Or the fact that we said the prevalence of a phenomena in different population groups is twice as many female as male smokers. Now, this type of hypothesis is called the hypothesis of association. So in today's video, we learned that there are mainly two categories, broad categories of hypothesis, types of hypothesis. One is called the research hypothesis and the other is called the alternate hypothesis. Now, under the alternate hypothesis, we may have the null hypothesis, and under the research hypothesis, we may have hypothesis of no difference, hypothesis of difference, hypothesis of point prevalence, and hypothesis of association. When you are constructing your own hypothesis, see under which category it falls and how would you categorize it. Thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you soon with my next video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about these videos and are they useful or not. Bye for now.